All right, Dan, how much confidence and comfort do they have in the sustainability of an offense geared around the running ability of your quarterback, who is as valuable to the franchise as anybody on the roster? And you have to balance the fact that, boy, look what he is capable of doing. We saw it Monday night on national television versus the threat of injury that obviously that maybe invites. So, or certainly increases the likelihood. How do you find that balance and how sustainable is it?
Yeah, it's a challenge, and they're very aware of that challenge. And that's what has been kind of the give and take throughout the first 7 weeks of the season, is trying to find a happy medium where you can use those gifts and you can use Justin's playmaking ability to your advantage without putting him at risk of taking, 15 hits in a game where he's eventually going to wind up hurt and you're going to have to turn to Trevor Siemian. I thought they did a really nice job Monday night with the designed runs, obviously, and then there were 10 of them in all, and they came in a variety, right? You had the zone read concepts, you had a couple quarterback draws, you convert a couple 3rd and 1s with basic sneaks. There's the fake jet sweep to Valus and then Justin takes off for the touchdown. He does another one of those later in the game, and so it wasn't just designing runs for Justin; it was designing them in a bunch of different ways that really seemed to strain and frustrate the Patriots. And so obviously you're going to go back to that video and say, this is great. We love this. We love this. We love this. Now, how do we continue to do this while keeping him safe? And I think you heard Matt Eberflus on Tuesday use that word safe a few times in understanding just how that fragile that can be if you're not careful.
Yeah, I appreciate the way that they're going about it. I think, though, when we look at what they've been able to do running the football, that he is the key element to that, because you're going to get yards from your running backs. You're going to get your jet sweep here and there. But what you get from him, the yardage you get from him is a unique ability that not every team can boast.
Yeah, very few teams can boast. And it's like when you look at the stats every year and then you look at the Ravens rushing numbers and then you go, oh, yeah, Lamar's running around and really making plays, both with design runs and scrambles. And so, it's special. And Justin had a really good game. I'll tell you from the rewatch yesterday that there are some errors in there, a handful of them that need to be cleaned up. And I think they're going to be aware of that. But they were offset by big plays, right, and big moments. And the fact that the Bears were able to go 11 for 18 on 3rd down and convert 61% on 3rd down was a huge step in the right direction for them. And with 5 of those conversions being Fields passes and 5 of them being runs, you say, okay, now you've got an offense that has some versatility and balance that can really threaten an opposing defense. And now, just to give you guys the bad news, the Dallas Cowboys are waiting on a short week in Texas on Sunday. And it's not the ideal follow-up game for what the Bears built on Monday night, because it's not a really good matchup, and they're going to have to figure out a way to play the chess game in a way that limits the damage, because this is a really, really good defense.
Dan, it was euphoric in Chicago yesterday, and obviously when you outcoach the greatest coach of all time, it's going to leave a mark and it's going to have an impact. My question would be, how important do you think this victory will end up being? I know it's difficult to project, but in your opinion, how much did Monday night mean to Matt Eberflus's, tenure overall and his first year specifically?
So here's where I think its greatest value is, David. You heard the previous week from Justin Fields and Jalen Johnson that they were tired of being told they were close, right? And they wanted actual feel-good results instead of, the pat on the back on, oh, just hang in there, guys. You're going to get there, and they got it Monday night. They went in as 8.5-point road underdogs to a place they had never won, and they won by 19, and they dominated the game, and they were physical on both sides of the ball. And so the positive reinforcement for the work that they're putting in behind the scenes is invaluable. And so it gives Matt now a level of heightened buy-in. It gives him greater attention going into the next few weeks of, all right, guys, let's keep doing what we're doing. And just this continued focus on detail, right? That Matt Eberflus emphasizes, that Ryan Poles emphasized before the game on Monday night, that this team has to take care of to succeed at this level. It's notable, and they're showing that level of detail in the work that they put in practices throughout the week. And when it pays off on game day, Now, all of a sudden, you feel like you've got a culture building and not just a one-off result. And so that's where I think this can be valuable, regardless of what happens this Sunday in Dallas, because I'm very worried about this matchup and just how quickly it'll bring a couple things crashing back down to earth. This defense, I'm just telling you, Micah Parsons, I don't know how they're going to block him and what they're going to do to keep him at bay. The Cowboys have a league-high 29 sacks. You've got Dorrance Armstrong having a great year.
Yep.
DeMarcus Lawrence is still there. We all know what kind of playmaker Trayvon Diggs is on the back end. One of the things that concerned me with Justin on Monday night in a very encouraging performance overall was just the ball security, right? He has another interception on a ball batted at the line of scrimmage. He's ultimately credited for 4 fumbles, none of them lost in the final box score. And you got to be really careful because as soon as an opponent recovers one of those, now a game shifts and a week shifts and then a month shifts. And you just got to be really, really careful with that ball. And so we'll see how they get that cleaned up this week.
So, Dan, watching the game again, I think a couple things stood out about the offensive line. And you know that, like, positive plays are – it's nice when you have reference points that are positive and not guys getting beat. But I saw, obviously, Braxton Jones had the play in the open field on the touchdown. I saw Sam Mustipher make a really good block in Justin Fields' touchdown run that he got to the linebacker and just mauled him. And I saw Tevin Jenkins knock over the guy. I think it might have been Judon. I'm not quite sure if I remember who it was, but that was a highlight for an offensive guard. There were some good moments for an offensive line that didn't necessarily protect the passer any better, but boy, they're establishing a reputation and they're getting the results because they're the best rushing team in the NFL. Can they do that against the Cowboys?
Yes, they can. And look, it's going to take what Mully talked about a few minutes ago, the combination of Justin Fields runs along with Khalil Herbert, along with Dave Montgomery, maybe a sprinkle of Treston Ebner here and there. And you've got an opportunity to run the football and set the tone. Now you got to keep the game within reach, right? And be able to play it on your terms. And you can have some success that way because this offensive line has shown through 7 games that as run blockers, they have been efficient and they have been pretty good. And this rushing offense is potent right now. And so lean on that, lean onto that as much as you can and figure out what you can squeeze out of it. Really nice night for David Montgomery overall. I was happy to see him rewarded with that touchdown in the second half because there were a few plays, especially from up in the press box, where it's like, oh, he stopped. And then 3 seconds later, you see him squirting out about six yards ahead of where you thought the pile was. And you say, man, that guy with his contact balance and his ability to keep his legs turning, that's really cool to see. And so another nice night for him.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I think that when you think about the completeness, the well-rounded victory.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've seen a Bears team win in all aspects of the game before, where it's not that they had a great defensive performance with special teams. It was all 3 areas of dominance, not just victory. I mean, they beat the hell out of them on special teams.
Yeah.
And defense, they hit them pretty hard. And certainly you had to feel great about that running game. That was a physical, dominant victory in all 3 phases.
So we see it on occasion, right? And typically it's against like the Jaguars or the Texans, like a couple of years ago when they had those blowout wins, and you go, yeah, well, it's the Jaguars and the Texans, right? And this was against a well-coached quality opponent. And so it registers. There was a bunch of these in 2018, obviously, when they made the run to the division, but there hasn't been a lot since. And I'm in the middle of crunching numbers right now for my numbers package, and I'm trying to find out how many times in my time on the beat, season 10, that the Bears have scored 3 touchdowns in a game and had 3 interceptions in a game. And I have a feeling that by the time I get to the end of this research, that number is not going to be real high, right? And so to have that, first of all, I'll tell you as a beat reporter, to go into the locker room and be able to say, oh, I can talk to 3 different touchdown scorers and 3 different interception guys here tonight, right? Like that's a rarity where you can make your way around and have that level of interaction with the guys. It's a pretty cool night. I think as much as anything, you guys would tell me if you agree with this. It's just that people here wanted to feel like the story was moving forward, right? And I feel like the first 6 games, everybody felt stuck. And it was like, okay, the Bears got stuck in 2019, and then they didn't get unstuck in 2020, and then they didn't get unstuck in 2021, and then they rebooted, and it still felt like everything was stuck through the first 6 weeks. And Monday felt like, oh man, we just got unstuck, right? And we got our feet out of the mud, and we can move forward, and we can build on this momentum. And I think that was for most people, fans, analysts, everyone alike, was the most encouraging and refreshing thing of the entire night.
Well, because it was easy to agree on something. There weren't debates or arguments over progress that was manufactured or things that you were trying to see that weren't there. And so it was obvious there was a consensus that this was progress.